What is a truth you don't like accepting about yourself? My fear of being judged in a situation suppresses my genuine thoughts about things, and it can make me awkward, unfunny or seem like I'm trying way too hard. It's like all social interactions have some sort of performative aspect to them, and that thought is constantly broadcasted on some primal level of my consciousness. It causes me to cringe at myself before I even do anything. This typically occurs when I'm around anyone I'm uncomfortable with, and if I do forget about it, and something suddenly happens to draw my attention back to the meta of a given social situation, the feeling tends to double down. I'm not even antisocial, which makes it worse because I genuinely like being around people, but it sabotages a large amount of interactions for me and makes it hard to make friends. In my experience, when I get emotional over things that seem trivial, it's because they are standing in for much bigger things. They're like the understudies for the real issues. This is what I try and do when I find myself being like that. Upset because that person didn't say you're welcome fast enough when I said thank you? Nah, you're not upset about that. You're upset because you feel like you did the right thing and weren't acknowledged. You don't like feeling unacknowledged because it makes you feel ignored. You don't like ignored because it makes you feel like you don't matter. And you hate feeling like you don't matter, because all the traumatic shit you've pushed through in life, a lot of it has been done to you by people showing you through their actions, abuse that you don't matter and what you want or say is irrelevant. Does that make sense? These feelings may be triggered by something that seems really trivial, but a lot of the time if you dig down asking yourself why does that matter, you find some core truths. And peace as well. Edit, my thanks for the awards. How kind. For those of you asking, okay well. Then what? I have a response to that below. But to give you the short summary, positive self-talk to redirect your energy from feeding the trigger, to feeding a more positive activity. Great advice. But how do I do that then, Egon? You ask? Here is what I posted in answer to another user. Good question. So the next thing I try to do is some positive self-talk. It helps me because after I recognize the trigger, I redirect the energy I am feeding it, to something that is more productive. I worked on this short mantra with a therapist a few years ago. It's designed to contradict a lot of unhelpful thought patterns I have, namely that I am worthless, that I shouldn't expect nice things, and that I am unlovable. My mantra is I am worthwhile. I am worth looking after. I love myself. I say this, sometimes quietly under my breath, to myself several times in a row so I can short-circuit any patterns of thought that say yeah that woman who didn't say you're welcome was right. You're a piece of shit and you don't deserve jack squat, stop whining etc etc etc. You can make your own mantra like this. And you're very welcome to use mine. When I started doing this, I repeated it to myself hundreds of times a day. Literally hundreds. I was in so many destructive patterns. Drinking, drugs, emotionally destructive and very difficult to be around. I would say it to myself all the way on my walk from home to the bus stop. To every negative thought or welling up of emotion, when I noticed them during the day. All the way back from the bus stop home. And again 10 times before sleep. It really helped. I'm below average intelligence. Everyone likes to think they're so smart because they can see inside their brains and see, with no interference, all their great and original ideas and thoughts. And I still think smart things sometimes. But in general, the majority of people I meet, are substantially smarter than me. Not in terms of volume of knowledge, or learned skills, just in that they are better at thinking through things logically, better at problem solving, and more reasonable. It's humbling. To be able to acknowledge your position like this is really one of the smartest things a person could say. Only a true intelligent individual can acknowledge other people's superiority. There are a few things to take into account here. 1. You can't change your biological makeup. So there is no use in worrying about it. 2. As I read your comment, it seems that you're talking about a very specific field of intelligence, i.e. logicality and problem solving. Which means you have your own fields to be intelligent in. There is a reason for the fact that we have specific field professionals. We can't be an expert on everything. If you find your passion, then you find your true intelligence. Smile. I'm growing older. I still feel young, but I'm in my 30s. That means 40s aren't too far away, and I know that this decade flew by fast. I'm certain that the 40s will too, which mean 50s, are also not too far away, then 60s, etc. There's nothing I can do about it. But I do miss my 20s sometimes and I know I can't ever be that again. That is rough to have to accept. 40s are great. 20s were fun, but frankly that's an establishing decade where you make a lot of life decisions. Sure, that's exciting, but it's also incredibly stressful and often disappointing. You have higher highs but lower lows. When you're 20-something you don't have the perspective or tools to navigate life that you do in your 30s, which were even better than 20s. A little maturity makes life easier. However, 40s are a decade of more experience and more maturity, and even the big bad life events are easier to handle emotionally, etc. You're a better version of the you from 20+ years ago. So you take your aging parent with stage 4 cancer to a doctor appointment, and it's not tragic, it's something you appreciate. You leave the house with a giant patch of calamine lotion on your face, and forget it's there because it doesn't fucking matter that some cute person or store clerk is going to notice. I wouldn't trade places with a 25 or even a 35-yo, because that's always going to be part of me. I don't think of myself as a middle-aged person, I think of myself as a much better, nicer, relaxed me. I feel like the next decades will be even better. I'm gonna tell you a secret, that's the way most friendships are for most people. They are born of convenience, proximity, schedule alignment, same jobs/classes, after-school clubs, etc., and are killed by inconvenience. Social media has given us the illusion of maintaining friendships across vast distances, but the truth is, you aren't a meaningful part of their life anymore, and neither are they to yours. You can talk to them online all day, but the next time you meet up it still might be like meeting a whole new person because they've had influences that you weren't there to meet, and they've done things they haven't told you, etc. and you're not the person they remember, not exactly, even if you mostly are. The friendship was between two people who don't really exist in the present, and under circumstances which certainly do not. Which is why brothers before hoes almost never works. Tie the knot with somebody who can be your best friend, and keep working at that, and hopefully you have a friend who will never move away. I'd recommend trying to find meetups for things you like to do, but if you're in a rural area I know that can be hard. There's also the fact, which people don't like to admit, that adults are a lot less willing to make friends than teenagers are. They're carrying around so much more baggage, and are less willing to compromise their comforts or beliefs in an attempt to fit in, so adults often come across as standoffish even when they want to be friendly or conversational. When it comes to clubs, especially if you're into nerdy things, I find often that they chase away people who are not exactly critical of the subject, but people who do not come into it with zeal. Still, it's worth making the attempt. You may never see these people outside of the club or activity, but it will keep the loneliness at bay and allow you to experience some different personalities and perspectives. Fuck me, that's mine too. I constantly feel like I've been robbed of my childhood, the stupid things you can get up to like climbing trees, going fishing, pillow forts, just having a loving family in general. I missed out on so much. It hurts badly when I'm with my future in-laws. They love and support each other. No one is afraid to sit down and watch TV or go off on their own without asking permission, and you don't get screamed at and threatened for it afterwards. When visiting his aunt and uncle, how they fed us a warm dinner right away and offered to take care of our laundry before the week-long leg of our journey. I was so overwhelmed by it all I had to hide away in the guest room we were staying in and cried for a good 30 to 60 minutes until my BF came in thinking I was asleep until he heard me sniffling. He gave them a story about how I was exhausted from the trip and came to join me soon after. He understands that this drama just doesn't exactly go away easily, and while it does get better, another thing is that the damage not having a proper childhood dies to your adult life is very deep. I wish I had a normal life more than anything. I wish I could have a dad to call and get some good life advice from. I wish I didn't have to parent my own mother. It's gotten better to the point where I've stopped denying the life I had, but I still need so much help. So let me say to all of you I can't reply to or haven't replied to, thank you so much for being honest and open here. Sometimes it's very hard to put your thoughts out there. I respect you all for doing so. Secondly, if you see a comment without a reply and you can give the person some solid advice, I would love for you to help the individual out. Let's show the world how strong Reddit's community actually is. I will keep on replying as fast as I can. Please have patience. Smile, you guys are all amazing. P.S. I hate to ask for upvotes, but I'd really love for people to see this particular comment quite early on in the thread so that people who don't get quick replies don't feel left out. If you don't want to upvote, which I understand, perhaps you could inform others that I have so many comments now, it's hard for me to reply to all of them. Update 2. Wow, I am speechless. Speechless to see how many amazing people on this website that are brave enough to share their stories with us. I respect you all greatly. I am speechless to see that so many of you decided to step in and help other people as well. To all of you I want to say, thank you. I was having a bad day and I felt like giving back to the world somehow. All of your nice messages are making me feel amazing, despite any issues I might have right now. It should be me thanking you. I love you guys. Feel free to DM me if you're feeling down, need some life advice, or if you want to ask me random stuff. I'm happy to share my life experiences with you. Long story. My health did a nosedive a few years ago, and what I have is pretty rare. I went to the ER and they told me I was having a panic attack and that nothing was wrong with me. I followed up with my doctor the next day and he told me it was anxiety and that nothing was wrong with me. I went through some form of that for a year or so. Over the course of that year I started to question myself. Did I have panic attacks and anxiety and hadn't noticed? Every symptom, pain, bad day, argument, etc. became something I'd analyze, trying to determine if it was anxiety or not. I questioned everything to the point of being miserable. I went and saw allergists, ENTs and gastros, all telling me I was healthy. My driver was pushing me towards cognitive behavioral therapy and I was becoming worried that maybe I wasn't really sick, but I felt sick. Finally I found a gastroenterologist who cared enough to run a ton of tests on me and I was diagnosed with achalasia. The muscles in my esophagus work properly in about 30% of my swallows. It's caused me to have horrible GERD and esophageal spasms that feel like heart attacks. I've already been told I'll have to have surgery for it someday and honestly look forward to it. It's all documented and I am fully vindicated. Great, but guess what? I developed pretty severe anxiety over the year and can absolutely tell you I didn't have it before. It's difficult to accept that I have this. I don't want it. I didn't have it before and I don't want to have it now. The things that make me anxious now were daily occurrences before this. I don't feel like myself anymore. I'm nervous and I worry. I'm on edge more than I should be. I can be unjustifiably rude. I was always patient, I'm not patient anymore. I was calm, not calm anymore. All of that to give you an answer. I'm not who I used to be and I'm not who I want to be, and I'm not sure I'll ever be free of this, and it's heavy. Sorry to rant.